Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. It's a super mini mail call and well, as you can see, things are not mini. Yeah, we got two huge boxes to open up here. I'm up in the living room. Sorry, there's probably some echo. I don't normally do recording up here, so let's hope it's not too bad. So these two giant boxes, these come from viewer Ricardo, and they actually come via a friend of mine, Patrick, or Vax11. And if you were at VCF East this year, 2024, you might have actually seen these boxes because, well, you would have seen what's in these boxes. The contents of these were actually there at the show. I wasn't there this year. And Ricardo wanted to donate this stuff to me. And that's where Patrick, or Vax11, comes in, because my friend Patrick happened to be there at the show. And as you can see, shipping this stuff would have been kind of difficult. So Patrick offered to take them home with him and then box them up and ship them to me, which is what has happened here. And these have been sitting in the living room because they are really big and well, they're heavy and I don't have a lot of space in the basement to bring these down as is, because there's tons of packing material in these. So I'm going to open them up here, and then we're gonna look at the contents, and then I'll bring them downstairs once they're unboxed and we can take a closer look at what this stuff is. Okay, this top box here says, this box open first, letter inside. All right, there's the letter. Looks like we have some stickers and a business card. We'll just set this aside. And I gotta say, it looks like Patrick went all out, because looks like this thing is double boxed. Oh no, packing peanuts. So not quite double boxed, but now I'm gonna have a big mess to clean up in the living room here. These peanuts are the type that are biodegradable, which is great. It means I can throw them away without any kind of concern. I think if you just add a little water, they turn to mush. Okay, so we are boxed with multiple smaller boxes inside. Excellent, so that means I can just kind of unbox the various boxes, and then these peanuts should just fall into the bottom of this box, I hope. Okay, I think that's it for box one. There were two boxes inside. Maybe if I looked at the letter, it would tell me what's in these, but we're just gonna keep going here. All right, I'm just checking the letter here. And there's a bunch more in here than I've even thought there was gonna be. Okay, what do I do here? Well, box number one. This is what we call strategic unboxery, to try to keep the peanuts inside. All right, we're gonna open this, which was the top box on box number one. So we'll start here, kind of to try to restore the order of things. All right, well, I think it's time to take a look at the letter. Adrian, enclosed, please find 5 Brazilian Apple II clones. That's the stuff Ricardo gave me, that I picked up for you at VCF East. In a small extra box, there is a power supply and a couple of tubes of loose ICs that were supplied with the computers, along with a few bonus parts that I included. 2 IBM Model F PCXT replacement keyboard cables. Sweet! I have at least one of those keyboards where the cable's all chewed up. 100 5165 DRAM. What is that? Is that a 4164 with some slight difference? 141 256 DRAMs, RCA patch cords, 2 exciting box of IBM software titles for the IBM PC, exciting in quotes, QA Plus diagnostic software, Caesar's Palace game, 8 DE9 RJ45 adapter kits, and 1 DE9 to DE or DB25 serial adapter. I hope you enjoy all of this. I did my best not to send a whole truckload of things I saved from computer reset. Instead, I sent just a small selection of things. Patrick Finnegan, aka Vax11. And on the back, P.S. I've included a few stickers from a new museum I'm trying to get going, which is centered around boring business computers, the Museum of Batch and Time Sharing Computer History, and there's the URL. Here's the website for the Museum of Batch and Time Sharing Computer History. It's based in Lafayette, Indiana, so if you're in the Chicago area, it's not too far of a drive. Let's check out the systems. Yeah, Patrick's really into this old, I mean, I don't know if this is the right term, but I call it big iron.
It's probably not. I guess it's mid-range stuff, but it's still huge compared to what I normally deal with. I know Patrick has a big affinity for VAX machines specifically, VAX 11, that's his handle. And then these IBM large systems as well. Let's check out the VAX 780. No picture yet. Here are the current board of directors for the museum. We have Patrick and Alex, and then we have a few other folks. And the big thing to note is that Patrick is going to be at VCF Midwest in Chicago in September, and that's this year, and I will be there as well. So if you want to see some old stuff, big iron or medium iron on display, then you can check it out, and I'll be there as well. If you've been to VCF Midwest in the past, this year is going to be the biggest one ever. I think it's about 3 times larger than it was last year, at least when it comes to floor space. Oh, that's a cute pointer, isn't it? So yeah, check it out here, September 7th, 8th, 2024 at the Renaissance in Schaumburg, Illinois.
So here's the business card, MO Batch, Museum of Batch Computing, I guess, mobatch.org, Lafayette, Indiana. And that's where the museum is located, the Museum of Batch and Time-Sharing Computer History Incorporated. And some stickers, sweet. Well, haha. We have some ICs and EPROMs, it looks like. These are probably the ones that were included with the Apple IIs. Extra RCA patch cords, always handy. Here's that software, QA Plus, DiagSoft Incorporated, Quality Assurance Diagnostics for your personal computer, unopened. There's the Caesar's Palace game. Looks like it's on 3.5-inch floppy disks. Here are the chips. Did these come from China? They certainly are wrapped up like they did. That's awesome. Always good to have extra DRAM. So here are the adapter kits for the DE9, and this is especially useful for me because of the plexus. The pinout on the plexus P20 that I've been working on the main channel is unusual. And that means that, well, I couldn't just use normal serial cables, and I want to hook that thing up to a terminal server, which I bought. This will be for a future video, and these will come in super handy. I ended up having 1 or 2 of these in stock. And I mean, you know, going back in the network administration days, you'd have boxes filled with these, console cables, stuff like that. Well, who keeps that stuff? I certainly didn't, so I tossed them all out. Patrick came to the rescue and sent a whole bunch of these, which are fantastic. And the cool thing about these is you can kind of see in this one, there are pins inside there. That means you can wire up the DE9 to any pinout you need, which means it's really easy for me to get this hooked up to the terminal server, which uses RJ45 cables, just normal Ethernet patch cables, so I can get the correct plexus pinout for the terminal server. So that is freaking awesome. All right, so here are the brand new old stock Model F keyboard cables, obviously a computer reset thing, and I never thought I'd see these. So that's amazing. So that'll restore the worn out old coiled cables that are on my keyboards. I've got 2 more of the DE9 adapters, DE9 to DB25 adapter. I have a few of these luckily, but it's always good to have some extras. We have some kind of a power supply, and this is for the TK3000. So yeah, it kind of gives away what some of these computers are if you were unaware. Looks like this thing has a modern power supply put in there. There's no way that would have been in there in the original power supply for this thing. Doesn't really fit either. Slightly too big, but it looks like the TK3000, which is one of the Brazilian Apple II clones. Is this in focus? Hello, camera? Yes, maybe, there we go. Uses a DIN connector for the power input. All right, we have some exciting software for the IBM Planning Assistant, unopened. That's scintillating, absolutely scintillating. And the other box is IBM SlideWrite version 1.0. That shows an HP plotter right there. Now, what's interesting is I had one of these plotters at home. I recently, well, I was gonna make a video about it, but I never did. So I gave the plotter away to someone here in town who would much more appreciate the plotter. So I'm gonna have to borrow the plotter back and try out this, this software. It's an HP plotter just like this, and yeah, so we can see it actually work. And yeah, the HP plotter that I had, luckily, that I gave away, wasn't the GPIB version or HPIB version, it was actually serial. So it means it would work really well with the PC. How cool is that? All right, that is it for that first box. Okay, I think this was the box, the big box that I took out of the first box. All right. So I've talked about this on the channel a little bit before, and I'm pretty sure that's why Ricardo originally hit me up, just the camera up here, hit me up about these machines. I love Apple II clones. I absolutely love Apple II clones. And well, Brazil had a thriving computer market in the 80s, but I think due to some local laws, and don't quote me on this, and if I'm wrong, I do apologize, but I'm pretty sure companies like Apple and Commodore could not actually operate in Brazil. They had to partner with a Brazilian company to sell their computers, and I don't think anyone did that really. So I think what happened is local Brazilian companies ended up cloning the machines, which while illegal in countries like the US and Canada, and obviously in Europe, I think were actually legal, at least for a while in Brazil. Eventually the laws changed and you can get normal computers in Brazil now, non-clones and stuff like that. But for a long time, I think these clones, they were your only option. All right, so the first machine we have here, let's see if it's in frame. It's not totally. This is a Craft 2 Plus with the Apple logo and everything. That is blatant. That is freaking blatant. Obviously, we're talking about a 2 Plus clone. And unfortunately, as you can see, the keyboard is missing some keys, but this is how it was. It also seems like it's a bit bent, so the structure under here that holds the keyboard isn't in the best shape because this is lower than it should be, although it seems like the whole computer isn't really screwed together. So of course I'll be curious if inside these computers there's those missing keys. Maybe I just need new stems and things. Seems like that one's broken, that key switch is missing altogether, power switch is missing. Anyways, it's a cool Apple II Plus clone, and we have a numeric keypad. Let's pop it open. All right, so we have some packing material here. That's great, keep things from floating around too much in here. All right, so we have a little bit of cloth down here. I think that was to keep the keyboard from falling out since it's not really mounted in there properly. Well, we can see here that this is very much a parts machine. It has no chips on it, no chips at all. And we have a Unitron Electronica power supply. And in case you're wondering, from my understanding, Brazil runs on 120 volts. I think it might be 50 hertz, but it is 120 volts. That means that these power supplies should just work. But it is multi-voltage, there's 110 and 220 switch right there. It looks like it's in the 110 position. But clearly this thing is not gonna work, not without a full complement of chips. But there's a really good chance that other than the ROMs, which are not installed on here, this thing is absolutely just going to be copying the Apple II Plus, so all the chips are the same. Also, it probably is not super visible because the camera work here sucks, but the chips that go in these sockets are labeled. So that'll be a future project, obviously, to try to restore this thing back to good condition, although, of course, missing these keys and stuff is always going to add some extra difficulty because who knows if these switches are the same and the keys themselves look different. Although the switches do look like the Apple IIe switches, so that might not be too bad to replace these. I have some spare parts 2Es. Okay, well in here is another 2 clone. Let's get this unwrapped. All right, this is a Unitron AP2. Now, I don't think it's gonna come across in the camera because it's such terrible work, but it looks like it was painted by hand, maybe with a brush, I don't know. Keyboard actually feels pretty good, very mechanical. Power LED is up here next to the 1. In fact, it is part of the 1 key. There's an LED right there instead of the power being down here. Reset, which has an extra spring on it, so that's very stiff to push. All those keys feel excellent to push. This computer feels super light though. I have a feeling it's missing stuff on the inside. All right, so let's get this paper out of here. Oh, there's a motherboard floating around in here. Let's see what we see here. Well, the keyboard was connected to the RAM chip there. That's just a placeholder so it doesn't get damaged. Got a bit of tape going on here. All right, there's our motherboard. Also missing most of the chips. We got 48K of RAM possible there, ROMs there, probably written up for or wired up for EPROMs, CPU socket, character ROM is missing, keyboard would have plugged in right there, that's the actual spot for it. But otherwise we're looking at a very typical, let's just look at the back here, Apple II clone. We got video and then cassette there, green slot connectors, a bit of corrosion, and we have Unitron Electronica, so same brand as the power supply that was in the other machine. Back of the board, yep, it's old style construction. This is freaking awesome. I just love it. I love it. This should be totally repairable as well. Of course, there's a lot of chips that need to be sourced to repopulate this. Well, obviously the DRAM is going to be easy, as are the ROMs. So not too many on this one, certainly less than the other one. And inside the case, we have no power supply. Got a little window for the power supply though. And the keyboard that is actually mounted correctly. So it's not floating around. Oh, so I was gonna say something's floating around in here, but it was just the speaker. Okay, let's get that out. I am curious on the back, Unitron, and the telephone number. I assume some kind of company ID or FCC ID sort of equivalent for Brazil. Very cool. All right, moving on to the next box. This was from box number 2. I have to give a huge shout out to VAX11 for packing this stuff up. Packing stuff is such a pain. And you know what, when they're old and rare computers like this, things you can't really even find in the US, it makes it even more special. We don't want this to be like what, you know, an eBay special where you order something from eBay, it's packed well and then gets smashed, right? Well, obviously when you pack things properly, it shows they can be shipped across the country and arrive in perfect condition. Now, even though the 2 machines we've seen so far were clearly not working, I think the rest of these do work, or at least 2 of these do. I don't remember the exact details. When I was talking to Ricardo about these machines, it was quite a while ago at this point. And wow, take a look at the TK3000 color computer. Does this not look like something else? Atari 1200 XL perhaps? But no, this is an Apple II clone of sorts. I think this one is actually slightly different. Like it's a bit incompatible with something that was really made for the Brazilian market specifically, but it's really an Apple II at heart, but there are some changes to it. I mean, the bottom even looks like an Atari here. There's the badge, Micro Digital. And yeah, wow. Pretty sure this is the one that uses that power supply that had that replacement unit inside. It plugs in there. And then we have video and monitor, so maybe color and monochrome. Then we have earphone, mic, and what are these? Remote control? Maybe paddles or something? On the side, we have an expansion connector. We have a joystick port, which is a standard DE9, like Atari style. And Impresara, I think it says here. I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm misreading it. I don't have my better glasses on right now. But what a freaking awesome looking computer this is. Wow. But wait, we are not done. There is now the final box that was inside the other boxes to open up. Let's see what we have in here. All right, there's the next computer, the TK3000. I guess that's a 2E. So we have an Apple IIe clone, but unlike the original 2E, we have some LEDs here, status LEDs, a keyboard that feels pretty terrible to type on, heavily yellowed case. Let's pop the cover on this. Inside, well, things are kind of floating around a little bit. Move the camera a little. Oh boy. Okay, I don't think this thing was working, that's for sure. Power supply connector, I guess. So here's the motherboard. It's got a RAM expansion slot for the 2E. Obviously a much more simplified design of sorts. This thing has a built-in RF modulator on it and looks like the joystick connector was never installed. At least this does appear to be the power connector for this that goes on there. We have a pretty big cable that connects up for the keyboard that goes right there. And then the power supply I think the term has seen better days is appropriate here. So this is all sort of disassembled. So that's going to require a little bit of TLC at some point in the future. We have a speaker floating around in here, a single bodge wire, and yeah, that's it for the TK3000. So far, one machine that I think works and 3 that definitely don't work. Which, by the way, I might add, I totally knew that was the case. Ricardo told me about all of this. It's not like a surprise. We talked about this, I was like early last year, I think. So it's been a while since we communicated about this. And for the final clone, we might have the most blatant one yet. This one just simply says Apple II Plus on it. No way. Let's see what's inside. All right, things are a little different here. Interesting. This one appears to have the same motherboard as one of the earlier ones. So unfortunately, the keyboard is broken out. Now, I don't think this thing experienced shock in transport, but there's a little bit of a crack right here. Not a big deal, luckily. The rest of the case is okay. The power supply, let me pop this thing out here. It's got a similar connector to that other one we were just looking at. And let's get the motherboard out. This looks like an identical motherboard. Well, not quite identical, actually. A similar motherboard to the first one, or this one. It's not the same, though. This one, look at the power connector, totally different. Yeah, this has extra ROM sockets on it versus this one. Interesting. This one, though, is nearly fully populated. Got a little ground strap. This is for the video, whatever, connections, I guess. I don't know why there's 3. Oh, tape in and out. Oh, yeah, it has tape in and out, and then video. Keyboard connections there. Character ROM is installed. Just a little bit of tape on here. Just get that off of there. I don't like this packing tape. It's fine. It works really well for packing, but it just leaves a horrible sticky residue on everything. Look at that. A nearly complete one. Right. I mean, how cool. Now, when it comes to this 2 Plus case, it's definitely seen better days. I've said that a few times. There's a bunch of rust here. And look at the bottom here. Whole bunch of rust. So nothing that can't be fixed. Just a little bit of sanding and spray paint should clean that up. It doesn't look too bad. And the crack in the case, again, it's not terrible. It's just right there. Obviously, some kind of an impact on the keyboard. And actually, the keyboard is attached. It just got bashed really hard. So it's nothing that hopefully, well, I don't know. The plastic case is all warped a bit. I don't know if that's from poor manufacturing or what, but it looks like the keyboard has metal backplate on it, so that could hopefully be bent back into shape to get this at least situated properly into the case. And on the back of the case, we have a sticker for the ports, which screw into the case. And down here at the bottom, there's the badge. Hopefully that's in focus. I can't really read it without my glasses. Hopefully we can zoom up on that. And with that, we're done in the living room. So we have one Apple II Plus clone, that is that machine. The exciting IBM software is over there. And then over here on the coffee table, we have some motherboards, the top. We have the TK3000. There's another computer case over there. And if we rotate this around, there is, I think this was the first one that we opened. Which actually, now that I look at it, that motherboard doesn't look the same as the one we just unboxed. I thought it did. This is the one that's missing everything in it. Well, I thought I was going to take these computers downstairs and we could take a closer look at them, but I think I'm not going to do that. I think what I need to do next is put these things all back together, anti-static bags for all the motherboards, things like that. Make sure I get all the constituent parts back together. And then there's gonna have to be future videos on, well, trying to get these things working again. The only machine that has missing keys was that first one. So if you recognize the keycap type or have an idea where to get replacement keys, let me know. It'd be neat to try to restore all of these machines back to working condition. Clearly we have missing chips on a bunch of these motherboards. Like for instance, this one here for the Apple IIe clone, it's got two 40-pin dips missing. One's probably, well, I don't even know what they all both are, to be honest. There's a bunch of 40-pin dips on here. So if you are Brazilian and you're watching this and you are familiar with these machines, definitely let me know what I'm missing here from this. And for the other machines, I'm assuming they're just standard Apple II Plus motherboards, clones that is, which means all of the components are just standard TTL parts. So really nothing special. And hopefully all of them can be restored back to working condition. The power supplies aren't much of an issue. I could just use a Pico ATX in those. I think I'm missing the power connector, or the power supply was entirely missing for one of these, but that's not a big deal. I have extra Apple II power supplies, and I'm sure I can just hack the cable off one of those, connect it up to the motherboard, and we'll have working systems. Hopefully the keyboards can all be bent back into shape. And yeah, that is amazing. So, and then there'll be 5 incredibly rare, for the US that is, Apple II clones. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but the reason why clones amaze me so much is because they were pretty prevalent at some point during the 80s, like in the Apple II Plus era, and they were all illegal. And Apple started to really clamp down here in North America, and especially in the United States, working with the Federal Trade Commission and the US Customs and Border Control to seize the shipments of this stuff coming in from Asia. So there was a time when there were all sorts of Apple II clones available in the back pages of magazines and stuff, but then they all started to disappear. So I really love the weirdness of these clones, and I think I had multiple videos on fixing up that other Apple II Plus clone, and another viewer has sent in an Apple II Plus clone that works. That one just worked right off the back, and it looks like a TRC Model 1. And I still have that machine, and I've been slowly trying to reverse engineer the expansion connector on it so I can plug in a disk controller, because that's the one thing about that one. It has no built-in disk controller. So it turns on to Apple Basic and that's it. It'll be really cool to boot some games on that off floppy disk, so I'm slowly working on that. But yeah, I'm gonna build up this little arsenal of 2 Plus clones, and it's freaking amazing to see these ones, which, you know, I've never seen. And something as blatant as this with Apple II Plus written on here it's just so crazy. So cool though, so cool. So huge thanks to Ricardo for donating these to the basement. And then of course, a huge thanks for Patrick VAX11 to be the intermediary and getting these from Ricardo and getting them back to me and here in Portland, which is absolutely amazing. It's just so rare to see these things. So I feel very honored to have these things even in the first place. So yeah, thanks very much you two for doing this. Yeah, it's just amazing. And then, like I said, if anyone knows anything about these machines, definitely post it in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Of course, schematics or especially help with this TK3000 II motherboard will be helpful. I'd like to get all of this stuff working. Not to mention any help on the TK2000, that's the one that looks like an Atari, like information on how I can get software loaded onto that thing or what, that would be super helpful as well. Because I don't think that thing just uses a normal disk drive controller, although maybe it does, I don't know. All right, thanks to my patrons. Their names are scrolling up the side of the screen. They make it possible to do this full time. Huge thanks to all my viewers, and thumbs up if you like this video, thumbs down if you didn't. Subscribe if you haven't already, all the usual YouTube stuff. And that's gonna be that. So stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you next time. Bye.